Hey everyone, good morning. It is a beautiful sunny day here down at the apiary. I've got a dozen queens to get split off of these colonies today. And so essentially what we're going to be doing is each of these 3 colonies is going to be giving up 4 frames of at least a little bit of brood in there to kind of get them started. But primarily I'm going after those nurse bees. I want some good young bees to help these queens get rolling along. This is just a temporary small little setup I have over here, by the way. You can see this little electric fence over here to keep the bears out. There's some logs that need to be milled, and this is the fence system right here. And if you look at this guy here, that's the actual energizer for it. This fence system is actually pretty cool. It's designed for like camping in bear country. I think it came out of Montana if I remember correctly. And you can do a quick little setup around a camping tent area, and it's just enough energy to kind of tell the bear to go away. So that's pretty cool. And we'll be getting the new permanent solar system set up. I'll do a separate video about that because it's pretty cool if you need to have an energized fence. But if you look real quick at these colonies here, you can see I've got a screened in area in front of all of the entrances. They're blocked off in some way. Today I'm going to open those up all the way to give them full visibility. Let me get a little bit closer after I turn this thing off here because I don't want to have me on video getting shocked and beat up here. Okay, so you can see right here I've got a regular full-size entrance reducer. They've decided that that's not enough room for them, and if you look over here, they've gone ahead and started chewing their way out. So we're just going to open that up all the way. I left these screens on there when I was moving them, and you can see over here the same thing, right? They're trying to get out of there. They need more room to get bees in and out. So we're going to open that up today as well. So we'll take care of both of those. And I think we'll probably end up moving this pallet down to the other side. And just had one get all up in my ear. But we'll move that pallet down to the other side. And then we'll see about getting those other 12 colonies in. Hey everyone, good morning. Today is split day and adding in some new queens. So I've got a whole lot of stuff I'm going to go over today. So we're just going to kind of start over here. We'll go right to left. So as you can see here, I've got my protective gear. This is that very lightweight kind of Amazon thing I told you guys about. I think it's like $17–18. That's pretty much all I use for kind of upper body veil kind of protection. Down here are a pair of gloves I've got. These are actually great gloves. I think I got them from Man Lake. The reason I'm bringing them is because there's going to be so much activity today and I'm going to be causing a lot of agitation. So I want to make sure that I am kind of providing some extra protection there. To go with that, I've got the Carhartt overalls over here. That way I can provide some full body protection, smoker. Sometimes I will go ahead and just, rub 2 sticks together to make a fire, but most of the time I go ahead and use this bad boy right there, that little propane torch, so that works like a champ. So I want to talk to you real quick about this setup I've got going on over here. So this is 2 4x4 posts, and on top of those you have 2 frame nukes. Now you can see like this one right here in the middle. This is one that I made myself. I don't have the plans readily available, but I can try and track those down. But the other ones here that you see with this style of top right here, this is really dirty and funky, but all these got to get cleaned up before they go out today. And this is not my permanent arrangement. I just wanted to set this up real quick to show you a few things. But these right here came from Barnyard Bees. So I'll put a link to anything that I mentioned down below. That way, if there's something you're interested in, you can go check it out. And it's not affiliate linked. It's not going to pay me any money or whatever. It's just for your information. So what I have here, like I said, is the 4x4 post, and what I'm doing is I'm alternating every other hive, and on these 2 frame nukes, every other one's going to face a different direction. So you see this one faces front, rear, and that goes all the way down the line, right? Now I'm able to get 10 of them in here, and if I wanted to, I mean, this is still, if you look at the distance between this one and this one, is still a good 18–20 inches. I mean, I could push them together a little bit more and squeeze those last 2 on, but I think I'm going to put them somewhere else. I might even take them back to my house. I'm not sure yet, but for now this is going to be the setup. We'll put all 10 of them on there. Now these are not like a full 10 frame deep or a or even a 4 or 5 frame nuke. These are very top heavy. Now the ones that I built here with plywood, they're pretty stout, right? But, and again, it's not me picking on the one from Barnyard Bees because they're great. They're just a little bit lighter. They're a little lightweight. So if you see right here, they'll move around fairly easily. So you're going to want to figure out some kind of an approach or a method to keep them in place. So I'll show you one thing that I do. So if you're really kind of weird about measurements and angles and everything being perfect, this is one way to get your spacing exactly correct. But what you can do right here is you just put a brick in between each one. So you see where I've got one in the front, one in the rear. You could probably get away with just one in the middle. I did the same thing here. So let's just say we did one in the middle, kick that out, get that brick to span the distance, and there you have it, just like that. So that gives some bottom support, and it helps to keep them at the exact distance apart if you like that. Another option would be to take a strip of wood, something like this, probably before you get the bees actually installed in there so they don't get angry. Go find a place right here where you can just staple it across all the back of the hives. That'll help keep them in place. Of course, they all have to be the same distance, of course. Another option, this is one that I've done several times, is I'll take another post, and I'm trying to do this one-handed here. Okay, had to do a quick break there to get that done. So we'll put like a post across the whole top like this. Now obviously you can see that this is off to an angle to the left. It's not very well balanced. The ground below this is not level, but you can see you're getting pressure on the top of each of those. Now if you had one, for example, that was a little bit lower than the others, I generally just look around on the ground and try to find something, maybe something like this piece of bark or whatever, wedge that up underneath to give it just a little bit of friction in there to keep that gap, or fill that void space. So that's another thing that you can do for that. One thing I know that some of you have to be thinking right now, and I've actually had a question along these lines, is, well, hey, wait a minute, if you're on this 4x4 post and everything is nice and level, how do you get that slant in the hives so that we get good drainage from anything that's inside or anything that comes from the outside, like rain or anything like that? So what I've done here is I took this slot of wood here. I have a bunch of these just laying around. You can take this and cut it to size. So what I've done is I've just lifted it up and set that down behind it. And then as you can see here, you get some elevation to the front. So like I said, I can go ahead and take the saw and cut this, here. You want to make sure you get it all the way the width of the hive. But I'll cut it like here, and that'll get me 2 more. And that'll help get those leveled out. That's not a super big priority on day one. Just make sure you go when you check things out on your first inspection and try and get that get that looked at. Again, you don't have to put a level on them and make sure the bubble's right in the middle or one way or another. If it's drastically leaning towards the back, put something up underneath of it, right? If not, then don't worry about it. The last thing I wanted to cover real quick is this thing here. It's a mini mating nuke. This is something that people probably seen online, maybe haven't had any experience with them or know a lot about them. But these are great when you have a queen cell or multiple queen cells. I think I've got like 50 of these laying around, and you want to establish a new colony. So what you do is you take this little mini mating nuke, you fill that compartment right there with sugar. You can probably see there's a little piece of wood down there in the bottom that actually comes up and floats and gives them a little bit of a platform, because they will drown in there. But you get these little miniature frames. I put a little bit of a starter strip of wax in there, and this is just, some wax foundation that I got from something else, and just kind of peeled it off, stuck it up in there. Nothing scientific about it. But when you see down here, there's the entrance that they'll come in and out of. When you first set everything up, or if you need to close them in for any reason, you just push down right here, it closes that up, and then this becomes a vent to get fresh air for them. You can also vent the bottom. You can pull this orange piece forward, and you'll get some ventilation right there at the bottom, and it gives them a little landing platform. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Okay, so now you see the ventilation goes all the way through, and when I flip it over, they now have a nice little landing pad out here. Let's talk about this here. You probably noticed this little thing on the top right here. That's a little queen pheromone strip. So what I'll do is I'll put this queen pheromone strip in here, and then when I put the queen cell in, I usually put it somewhere, in one of these areas over here. And then you usually add about a cup, good size, probably if I was measuring it, it'd probably be about 1.5 cups or 2 cups of bees. And you drop the bees in there, put the queen cell in. Well, let me actually tell you the the real way that I would do this is I would have these out completely. This is really funky and dirty, by the way. I still haven't cleaned this thing yet. But I would clean that out completely first, and then I would drop the bees in, and then I would go ahead and set my frames in. Drop the queen cell here or here. Put the lid on it, and I would probably close that up depending on where I was making them. If I was making them in the yard that I was actually installing them, then I can leave it open. If I was putting it at the location, that's fine. A lot of times people will make these like in a big assembly line, put them on a pallet, and then they'll ship them to some other location or some other yard. They'll drive them, you know, an hour away or whatever it might be. So that's kind of a quick overview of that mini mating nuke there. Okay, everyone, well, split time is almost here. I wanted to kind of take a second and run through a bunch of things. First off, I do want to apologize. It is crazy windy today, so if the audio gets messed up, I'll just do a voiceover later. But if you remember from the previous video here, we had, you know, the entrance reducers were in. We've gotten rid of that, completely opened everything up to allow maximum ability to get in and out for the bees. So that's looking good right there. This colony right here, they have a tendency to be a little bit ornery. So we may requeen them today if they get too crazy with us, but we'll play that by ear. Okay, so starting over here on the left, what I'm trying to do is get into a position where I've got everything that I need ready to go. Okay, I cannot tell you how many times I've been doing this, and I get started and I forget a hive tool, I forget the smoker, I forget to have a frame ready or multiple frames ready or whatever it might be. Something's always missing. I'm sure I'm missing something today. We'll have to figure it out later. So if you look down here, I've got 3 colonies. The first and the third are both facing to the north. The middle one's facing south. I've got 3 bricks ready to go. Those are going to go on top when everything is all said and done. I've got 3 outer covers right there. You can see a piece of an inner cover. I will explain that here in a minute. That 4x4 post, I'm probably going to go ahead and set that right across the top here when we're finished, just to give a little extra weight. These are the ones that I made, so they're really, really heavy. So we'll kind of go down the line here real quick and get back to the new row. Okay, let me get down a little bit lower here. So we've got center block post on each end, and then we're running 4x4s. And as you see, we're alternating. Every other colony is facing to the front or the back. The bricks to put on top when we're done are all laid out over here. Now we're going to work our way over real quick. I do want to show you something. We had a discussion recently around frames and whether or not we're going to go with a black brood frame or just the standard kind of yellow brood frame. And people were saying, well, hey, you know, if you have a all black brood frame, it makes it a lot easier to see the eggs inside the actual cell. What I do want to show you though is, here's an example right here. Now this is a frame. It's a, you know, typical like a yellow type of frame, but look at how dark it is on the inside. Now this is not necessarily the best example of what I was thinking of though, because brood frames will darken up pretty quickly. Now look at this one here. This is started out as a regular light colored frame, as you can see there on the corner, but look how dark this is now, right? So, you know, I always tell people, use what you have, right? If all you have is the light color ones, and that's what you should use. Today I was digging around and I just happened to find just enough clean, ready to go, you know, all black brood frames, so that's what we're using for everything. So you'll notice I have one frame pre-staged in every one of these. What I'm going to do is I'm taking 4 frames of brood per colony. I want the brood, I want the worker bees, the nurse bees, I want all of them. But I got to be very careful I'm not taking too much away from those colonies so I don't disrupt, you know, their plans and their spring hopes and dreams. So I may end up shaking some of the bees off and just leaving the brood that's there. We'll have to kind of play it by ear and see what things look like. We need to make sure we have enough nurse bees available for this new queen so that she can do what she has to do, specifically so that those nurse bees are available to tend to the eggs and the larvae that she's laying. But we also don't want to take so many away from the other colonies that we, you know, reduce their ability to be successful. And I mean, you can see right now they're pretty well thriving. I don't think a population is going to be an issue. And this is part of the reason why I deliberately waited to do this inspection. It's somewhere near the middle of the day. It's somewhere like around, you know, noon, 1 o'clock. And this is a good time to do your inspections, because that way you have a lot of foragers out. You're not having to contend with, you know, every bee all at one time. Now on the back side here, these are all inner covers. These are cloth inner covers. So this is going to basically, once everything is set up in here, we'll lay the cloth inner cover over the top. If I can do this one-handed here, roughly like that. And then that outer cover, that telescoping cover, will go, the migratory cover will go on top of that. So that's just, it's a canvas company that I found. I don't remember the name of it. I can try and track it down and get a link in the description. But the guys up at University of Guelph and Paul Kelly up there, they all use these canvas inner covers, and I love them. They make a really good seal, and I think they're very effective. So I'm sticking with them across the board for all of my nukes and smaller colonies. And you see I did put the bricks in between everything to give a little bit of extra stability. Now back behind here, you'll see I've got 4 frames set up. That's 3. Okay, I'm 1 short, so I got to grab another one. So I've got 4 over there, 3 to the left. I got 4 over here. Behind me, you'll see I've got 2 queen excluders and 2 honey supers. The 2 strongest colonies today are going to get a honey super with a queen excluder. Now, I don't think, honestly, that I need the queen excluder right now, but I'm putting them on anyway. I have them. These are the 2 different types that most people are using. There's also, you can get these in a plastic one. I mean, whatever works for you, but I prefer the framed one over here. And you definitely need to paint the edges of these, the outside edges, like all along here, like I didn't do. But I prefer those because they're very easy to separate and work with. The metal ones or the plastic ones, you kind of have to peel them off, and sometimes they'll bend. If it's the plastic ones, they're flexible. They bend out and kind of bend back in. The metal ones don't bend as easily, but they maintain their shape better. So you're going to have to really beat them up to bend them to a point where they're not usable. And here's the 2 honey supers I have. These are just 2 mediums. One of them has comb that's already drawn. This one here has a lot of drawn comb already there, so that's great. And then, like I said, you'll see over here I got the other 4 frames ready to go. So this is kind of everything that I like to do when I'm getting everything set up, so that hopefully I can minimize the amount of time that they're open when I'm doing the splits and everything. So and I'm not doing the splits, but you know what I mean. Okay, I wanted to add just a couple more things that I forgot before I cut off. So I mentioned before about that just cheap Amazon pullover, and that's what I have right here. This is a newer one. This is not the same one I used to have. Be very careful, because it looks like down here, the way this is sewn, it looks like it's an elastic waistband, or yeah, elastic bottom of it. And all they did is kind of scrunched up the material when they sewed it. There's no actual elastic in here at all. So this just hangs over you like a shirt, and bees are absolutely going to come up and under. So I grabbed this bungee cord. I'll use that as a belt, but I will double check the brand name of this one, and I'll compare it to the brand name of the ones I've bought in the past, and I'll make a better recommendation for you, because the ones I've gotten all, you know, throughout the history, you know, I've bought 5 or 6 of these over the years, and they've all had a nice, good elastic band, unlike that one. The other thing, I forgot to get a video of the lighting of the smoker. This is some of my materials here. So I just got this leftover like insulating material. I think it comes from Blue Apron when they send foods that they want to insulate or something like that. So I just save all that stuff and tear it off. It's very flammable, burns pretty well. So I've got a bunch of stuff in here now. The smoker should be good to go for a while. This is the brand new fancy schmancy Man Lake whatever $60 one. Now I can tell you, so far it looks like it's putting out a really good volume of air, so I'm actually kind of happy with that. We'll see how it does. If it can stay lit, that's all that really matters. And the material, it rained last night, so it's pretty wet out here, but it looks like it's cranking along pretty well. One last thing I wanted to mention before I get rolling. What I've done to get everything ready to go as I navigate and negotiate the electric fence obstacle. Okay, so what I've got here is a regular telescoping outer cover, and then a deep, and then I've got another telescoping outer cover on top of that. So inside of here, when you open this up, There's my package of queens, and I got the lid kind of canted a little bit sideways here. That way there's plenty of ventilation. And what I'll do is, as I'm removing frames from the colonies, I'll just drop them in this box to make sure I've got them all in kind of one area, and then I'll move over to where they're going to be and get them installed. And that way I've got a nice safe place to keep the queens. They're not sitting out in the sun, and again, on a day like today it's not going to be an issue, but it's just kind of a force of habit. They're not sitting out in the sun, they're not baking, and they're protected. Put all the frames in, move over to the split colonies, drop all of them off, and then once all of them are completely split up, then I'll come back and insert the queens afterwards. I think that's what I'm going to do. Once I open this package up, there's a dozen queens in there, and there's just a big group of attendants. Versus if you're used to buying 1 or 2 in a queen cage, and there'll be maybe 5 or 6 of them in the queen cage with her. In this case, they're just all inside the box. So once I break it open, they're all off and running doing their thing. So unfortunately, I don't have the tripod adapter for the GoPro, so I can't put it on the tripod. I didn't bring that chest adapter, so I can't video the entire thing, but I'll try to make updates as I go. Okay, everybody, well, the deed is done. Here are 9 of the 12 splits. There's still a lot of bees moving around, a lot of activity. You can see some scraped off brood on the ground right over here that the workers are working on. There's some more over here. I'll talk to you about that in a second, but that's the most recent hive that we did right here. And then you can see we added queen excluders and honey supers to both of these. And then we've got these 3 over here. Put the extra 4x4 on the back. I don't think it needs it. These are the homemade ones that are really, really thick, but just a little bit of extra measure there. But yeah, I mean, all the colonies are really, really strong, looking good. The one on the far left was just unreal. They've always been a little more aggressive, but all of them are a little bit aggressive, and that's where I'll come back and talk to you real quick about what you see here on the ground. And what this is a combination of some burr comb and a little bit of drone brood. What ends up happening is, as the bees are developing everything and they're laying the queen's laying the worker brood, then she starts laying the drone brood, and it tends to be more like on the edges or at the bottom of the frames or at the top of the frame below it. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll lay that brood all the way up right across into the from one super up to the next, or from one deep up to the next. And when that happens, you end up, when you separate the deeps or whatever hive bodies you're using, when you separate the 2 of them, they will just basically rip apart all the cells for that drone brood. And of course that makes them pretty agitated. So even some bees that are relatively docile will get pretty upset. Now these genetics here that I have are really, really good producers. They produce massive amounts of honey, and they're great with so I got all these bees are still pretty upset, and I'm standing right next to them. We got a bunch of them jumping in my face. But yeah, they're very productive, slight bit more on the agitated side, pretty good on hygiene, but they do have a tendency to swarm because of the fact that they ramp up so aggressively in the spring. I mean, I can't believe it's April 1st and I opened these colonies up and they were just exploding. I'm just bursting at the seams. So this last one over here is the one that I thought was the weaker of all of them going into it. I was correct, so I did not add a super to them. I don't have one with me anyway to do it, but I wouldn't have if I had one. But within about a week or 2, they'll be ready to go. So all right, everybody, that's it. It wraps it up for the day. I am going to head back to the house and get back to work on the podcast and get a couple Bee Buzz episodes out. So take care. We'll talk to you soon.